Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Devahūtyāṁ class, which is from Canto 2, entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. And this morning we're going to be doing text number 3. Before that, we'll just start with Jai Radha Madhava as usual. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Privajagacharya Stotra Satyashishi Mother's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Privajagacharya Stotra Satyashishi Mother's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shami Kunu Radha Kunu Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Praise Sri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale sva-mātre Bhakti Tirtha Swami Tinamine Namaste Krishna Paraya Prabhupada Sutatmani Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Tinamine Narayana Namaskritya Narunchevam Naruttamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Gujirayat Nashta Praisva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 3. Jage kardama-gṛhe dvija devahūtyāṁ strībhiḥ samaṁ navabhir ātma-gatiṁ sva-mātre uche yayātma-śamalaṁ guṇa-saṅga-paṅkam asmin vidhūya kapilasya gatiṁ prapede. Jage kardama-gṛhe dvija devahūtyāṁ strībhiḥ samaṁ navabhir ātma-gatiṁ sva-mātre uche yayātma-śamalaṁ guṇa-saṅga-paṅkam asmin vidhūya kapilasya gatiṁ prapede. Jage kardama-gṛhe dvija devahūtyāṁ strībhiḥ samaṁ navabhir ātma-gatiṁ sva-mātre uche yayātma-śamalaṁ guṇa-saṅga-paṅkam asmin vidhūya kapilasya gatiṁ prapede. Hare Krishna. Please chant if you feel like it. Hare Krishna.
Jajñe kardama-gṛhe dvija devahūtyāṁ strībhiḥ samaṁ navabhir ātma-gatiṁ sva-mātre uche yayātma-śamalaṁ guṇa-saṅga-paṅkam asmin vidhūya kapilasya gatiṁ prapede. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
jajñe kardama-gṛhe dvija devahūtyāṁ strībhiḥ samaṁ navabhir ātma-gatiṁ sva-mātre uche yayātma-śamalaṁ guṇa-saṅga-paṅkam asmin vidhūya kapilasya gatiṁ prapede. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jajñe kardama-gṛhe dvija devahūtyāṁ strībhiḥ samaṁ navabhir sva-mātre yayātma-śamalaṁ guṇa-saṅga-paṅkam asmin vidhūya kapilasya prapede. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All right. Anyone else? Okay. So we'll do word for word. Jajñe took birth. Child also. Kardama, the prajāpati named kardama-gṛhe, in the house of. Dvija, O brāhmaṇa. Devahūtyāṁ, in the womb of Devahūti. Strībhiḥ, by women. Samaṁ, accompanied by. Navabhir, by 9. Ātma-gatiṁ, spiritual realization. Sva-mātre, unto his own mother. Uche, uttered. Yada, by which. ātma-śamalaṁ, coverings of the spirit soul. guṇa-saṅga, associated with the modes of nature. Paṅkam, mud. Asmin, this very life. Vidhūya, being washed off. Kapilasya, of Lord Kapila. Gatiṁ, liberation. Prapede, achieved. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord then appeared as the Kapila incarnation, being the son of the prajāpati, brāhmaṇa, Kardama, and his wife, Devahūti, along with 9 other women, sisters. He spoke to his mother about self-realization, by which in that very lifetime she became fully cleansed of the mud of the material modes, and thereby achieved liberation, the path of Kapila. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The instructions of Lord Kapila to his mother Devahūti are fully described in the 3rd canto, chapters 25 through 32 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and anyone who follows the instructions can achieve the same liberation obtained by Devahūti. The Lord spoke Bhagavad Gita, and thereby Arjuna achieved self-realization, and even today anyone who follows the path of Arjuna can also attain the same benefit as Sri Arjuna. The scriptures are meant for this purpose. Foolish, unintelligent persons make their own interpretations by imagination and thus mislead their followers, causing them to remain in the dungeon of material existence. However, simply by following the instructions imparted by Lord Krishna or Lord Kapila, one can obtain the highest benefit even today. The word ātma-gatiṁ is significant in the sense of perfect knowledge of the Supreme. One should not be satisfied simply by knowing the qualitative equality of the Lord with the living being. One should know the Lord as much as can be known by our limited knowledge. It is impossible for the Lord to be known perfectly as he is, even by such liberated persons as Shiva or Brahma. So what to speak of other demigods or men in this world? Still, by following the principles of the great devotees and the instructions available in the scriptures, one can know to a considerable extent the features of the Lord. His Lordship Kapila, the incarnation of the Lord, instructed his mother fully about the personal form of the Lord, and thereby she realized the personal form of the Lord and was able to achieve a place in the Vaikuntha Loka where Lord Kapila predominates. Every incarnation of the Lord has his own abode in the spiritual sky. Therefore, Lord Kapila also has a separate Vaikuntha planet. The spiritual sky is not void. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and in each of them, the Lord, by his innumerable expansions, predominates, and the pure devotees who are there also live in the same style as the Lord and his eternal associates. When the Lord descends personally or by his personal plenary expansions, such incarnations are called Amsha, Kala, Guna, Yuga, and Manvantara incarnations. And when the Lord's associates descend by the order of the Lord, such incarnations are called Shaktivesha incarnations. But in all cases, all the incarnations are supported by the invulnerable statements of the authorized scriptures, and not by any imagination of some self-interested propagandist. Such incarnations of the Lord, in either of the above categories, are always declare the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the ultimate truth. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is just a process of negation of the form of the Lord from the mundane conception of the Supreme Truth. The living entities, by their very constitution, are spiritually as good as the Lord, and the only difference between them is that the Lord is always supreme and pure without contamination by the modes of material nature, whereas the living entities are apt to be contaminated by association with the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. This contamination by the material modes can be washed off completely by knowledge, renunciation, and devotional service. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate issue, and therefore those who are directly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord not only acquire the necessary knowledge in spiritual science, but also attain detachment from material connection and are thus promoted to the kingdom of God by complete liberation, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 26. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunaya samatitetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Even in the non-liberated stage, a living entity can be directly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, or his plenary expansions like Rama and Narasimha. Thus, with the proportionate improvement of such transcendental devotional service, the devotee makes definite progress towards brahma-gatiṁ or ātma-gatiṁ, and ultimately attains kapilasya-gatiṁ, or the abode of the Lord, without difficulty. The antiseptic potency of devotional service to the Lord is so great that it can neutralize the material infection even in the present life of a devotee. A devotee does not need to wait for his next birth for complete liberation. Oma gyanati mirandasya gyana gyana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yen Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatyarini. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurachashe Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Siva Shari Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. The Lord then appeared as the Kapila incarnation, being the son of the prajāpati brāhmaṇa Kardama and his wife Devahūti, along with 9 other women, sisters. He spoke to his mother about self-realization, by which in that very lifetime she became fully cleansed of the mud of the material modes, and thereby achieved liberation, the path of Kapila. So as the title of this chapter indicates, the scheduled incarnations of the Lord and their activities are what's being talked about here. We started with the Lord as Varaha, and his pastime involving killing Hiranyaksha, one of the gatekeepers called Vijay in the spiritual world. Then now we're progressing on, so there'll be other incarnations. And in this particular text, it talks about Lord Kapila. So Lord Kapila appeared in the family of Kardama and Devahūti. They were the parents. So I have to apologize to yesterday when I was talking about the different incarnations, Prajāpati, Ruchi, and so on. I did mention they were from Swayambhuva. Devahūti is definitely a daughter of Swayambhuva. But Devahūti's son, like Kardama Muni, is in fact Lord Kapila. They inadvertently talked about them being married, but actually his mother and son, Devahūti and Kapila. So Kapila is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead's expansion. And he taught what's called Sankhya philosophy. If time permits, we will go into some parts of it because they are very, very important. As the purport of today mentioned, that when Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Arjuna got cleansed, totally cleansed. He became convinced that he had to perform his duty based on what Krishna was asking him to do. And that is purification. When the person obeys the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his representative, the spiritual master, that is perfection. And that's where we're supposed to be. It's not too hard to do that. Sometimes our own minds make us want to do something else rather than the instructions given. But if we are determined to just go by what the instructions are with full faith and surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, life will not only be manageable, but it'll actually be a happy one too. Real happiness comes that way. It's just a matter of trying it. So in this text, it's obviously talking about the scheduled incarnations. So the Lord appeared as the Kapila incarnation from Kardama Muni and his wife Devahūti. Something a little bit about Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni is a self-realized soul who decided at some point in his life, but first he was living very simply, but he went through even more austerities just to please the Supreme Personality of God. He didn't want anything from the Lord. The pure devotee doesn't require or ask for anything. Whatever comes, he knows that it's the Lord providing, and he's satisfied with that. But Kardama Muni denied himself. His body got very emaciated. But still, he wanted to do that, and this focuses his mind and everything about it in connecting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in meditation. Krishna showed himself to him after a while, and Krishna shed tears when he saw the physical state of Kardama Muni. And the whole point he shed tears was because in Krishna's own mind, Kardama Muni had taken on that particular austerity just to please the Lord, not do anything else, devote his time fully to concentrating and doing meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because it had taken that service that he embarked on had taken such a toll on his body, Krishna looked at him and he started crying. As my Guru Maharaj has given, Bhakti Maharaj has given one lecture, and the title he gave to the lecture is All Emotions Come from Krishna. All emotions come from Krishna, even crying. So don't think the Lord doesn't cry. The Lord's emotions are very much affected by when we have 100% devotion going above and beyond, even at the expense of what our bodies can take. That's why further down the purpose, the Prabhupada quotes Mam Charyu Vabhichari, and that we'll get to that later. There's the reason it's there. But Kardama Muni faced difficulties and took it just to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also says that when I'm serving the Lord and I experience difficulty, that's when I'm the happiest. Why? Well, people don't like difficulties. So why Bhaktivinoda Thakur would say that he's happiest when he's in the more devotional service, serving, and then he experiences difficulty. Because it's the difficulty and transcending difficulty and serving even within that difficulty. That's what shows the Lord how much we care about him. And that's the point Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making. Therefore, if anybody has some service and then some trials come within the service, and then they want to back away from it, their faith is very weak on two fronts. One, part of it is laziness. And secondly, they don't have much faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord that is seeing the problems coming can also take us out of it at his will. But ours, our mindset is we are serving of a servant, therefore we go on serving anyway. When problems come, we serve because we can use our intelligence, and if we can't figure out some things, we can pray about it, but find a way to keep the service going. Find a way to keep the service going. And the Lord will help us if we have the intention to do it. So Kadama Muni was that kind of person. And when the Lord came, then he also told them that Swayambhuva Manu's daughter, Devahūti, will be given to him in marriage. And that's where we are now. So Kadama Muni married Devahūti. Devahūti was very, very beautiful. It's a princess. Swayambhuva Manu was a king. So his daughter, he had other daughters too, which is in the text before that we talked about. So Akuti was one of them, Prajāpati, Ruchi, that was the text before. So Swayambhuva Manu's daughter Devahūti married Kadama Muni. Then they had 10 children. 9 of them were daughters. And then the last born was a son. And that son was the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila. And that's the text that talks about that now. Now, when Lord Kapila grew up and Kadama Muni had left to go perform more austerities, he left Devahūti in the care of Kapila the son. And Kapila is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Kapila talked with his mother. He spoke to his mother about self-realization, about Krishna consciousness. And the effect of that is that his mother became fully cleansed from material modes and achieved liberation. And as Srila Prabhupada explains, every incarnation of the Lord has a Vaikuntha planet, a spiritual planet, where that particular incarnation is there. So Lord Kapila has a spiritual planet in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual sky. And the mother, when she got liberated, she went to that particular planet. That shouldn't surprise anybody. Love between mother and son. So that's why Devahūti went. But Devahūti got totally cleansed. So what Lord Kapila spoke to his mother Devahūti about that cleansed them is found in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In chapters 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. So along with Srila Prabhupada's purports for every text in those chapters, that's a book by itself. So there is a book called Instructions by Lord Kapila. If you get your hand on it, you can benefit tremendously from it. Or Srimad Bhagavatam, you can also go to the 3rd canto. And it's called The Status Quo. And you can read chapter 25 to 32. But as time permits, we will talk about some of the main points that Lord Kapila told his mother about self-realization. So Srila Prabhupada is also saying that when we hear such wonderful transcendental instructions, it has a way of cleaning us up. It makes us more tuned to the spiritual and more, we get ourselves more away from the material thing being the all in all. Because people normally think how I can take care of myself, my body, my property, my family, that kind of thought. There are some people, that's all they do. They live that way. I can take care of all these material things. And not surprisingly, they don't believe in God, or they know about God, but they don't take, anything involved in connecting with God seriously. They don't. Now, Lord Kapila's instructions or explanations about spiritual life to his mother Devahūti, it's put under the title of Sankhya philosophy. So Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapters 25 through 32 are Sankhya philosophy. Now, Sankhya philosophy, in a nutshell, or a simple definition of it, is that Lord Kapila exposed the material energy and material lifestyle for what it is. And then he also talked about spirituality in some detail. Spirituality never ends because Lord is unlimited, so there's so much that can be talked about. But this is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord himself, Lord Kapila speaking. So he explained enough to his mother about spiritual life and material life in such a way that it would be a very easy thing, piece of cake, for somebody to choose the spiritual life over material life. So Sankhya philosophy is exposing material life for what it is, and also talking about spiritual life for what it is. And then the instructions are in there while somebody will see, okay, it makes a lot more sense to put my attention to spiritual life than material life. Material life is temporary. And material life has all kinds of anxieties and challenges that come with it. Spiritual life is sublime. We have to get away from our own attachments to material energy. We have to detach from it first. Then then spiritual life becomes a very pleasurable thing to do. When it comes to chanting, Lord Krishna's name is very sweet, but we have to get to the point where we're chanting in a more focused way, and we're chanting with our hearts in it. Then it gets opened up. And now when you mention Krishna, just mentioning Krishna, you're very happy. Krishna has put, as Lord Chaitanya said, he has put all his energies in his holy name. Therefore, the holy name is extremely, extremely potent, the holy name of Krishna. And we feel some of the potency, a little bit of it, to the extent that we connect with full attention to it. So the chanting of the holy name is not just to be done as a matter of doing it. That's called ātma-gatiṁ. It's talked about in the Nectar of Instruction, doing things just for the sake of doing it. You don't get much benefit from it. You don't get zero benefit, because some people are not chanting at all, but you don't get much benefit either. So it's a question of, yes, chant, but we have to try to do it right. And if we don't do it right, it's actually offensive. If we don't pay attention when we're chanting, that's offensive. It's like calling Krishna's name but looking elsewhere. What should Krishna think about us when we do that? But our minds are, rascals, and they've been used to just going wherever he wants to go, all through this lifetime after lifetime, up to this lifetime. So then it needs to be trained. Pull it back to the holy name when you're chanting and it goes somewhere. The mind goes to pull it back to the holy name. Don't beat yourself down just because the mind went somewhere. But when you pull it back to the holy name, where now you're speaking, but you're also hearing, and the mind is focused on it, that is improvement. That is improvement. So all our sadhus, when we talk about it, all the sannyasis, they'll say, congratulations, you pulled the mind back to the holy name. And when we do more of that, then we train the mind. And initially it's going all over the place. Then it will do less and less and less and less. And at some point, it will begin to be very steady in the chanting. And the sweetness then begins to come. So, Srila Prabhupada also says, one should know the Lord as much as can be known by our limited knowledge. In one lecture, he said, yes, the Lord is unlimited, so we really can't know all about it. It's not possible. But he said, this much we must know and be convinced about. What is it? Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The buck starts with him and stops with him. Everything about him, what we know, spiritual and material, we have experienced very little. We have very little remembrance of spiritual, if any. But we're living in this material world. Even that's from him. So the point is, without Krishna, the word existence can't even be. He is the source of material and spiritual energy. That we should know. We may not know much of the details, and we are sitting on one planet, in one small universe, in millions of universes. But what little that's around us, some people don't even travel very much, so what do we know about other countries, even this planet still? But what we know all comes from the Lord. Everything we see comes from the Lord. Our very makeup is from the Lord, through his energies. So that, if we understand, that much we should know. And Srila Prabhupada said, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, they know a whole lot compared to us. But even they can't know everything about the Supreme Lord. So we follow the principles set by the great devotees. Then we can have a decent idea. Not too much, because we can't have that much, but a decent idea about the Supreme Lord and his activities. Some of it. The Lord is endless. But anyway, to come to this point, Lord Kapila, incarnation of the Lord, instructed his mother about the personal form of the Lord. And by realizing that, when she realized the personal form of the Lord, then he was able to achieve Lord Kapila's abode too when she left the body. So Srila Prabhupada is getting us ready to go to Krishna Loka, the Lord's abode, which is the one that has the greatest variety of relationship with the Lord. That is the biggest and is the farthest away planet in the spiritual sky. By chanting the holy name and by hearing and by serving especially in the temple, we'll have the opportunity to earn the mercy of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya has made this process simple enough in Kali Yuga. So we have to take advantage of it. And by doing so, listening and chanting and serving, then the material modes can be washed off. You get to listen, therefore you get to know. Then you do devotional service. And by getting to know, you also find out that you have to be renounced. That means detached from material things. It does not mean that we don't do anything material. We do only that is what's necessary in the material energy. We don't go say everything here is sense gratification and I want it all. Material sense gratification. That will not help us. That will not help us. When we put ourselves away from material energy, taking only what's necessary and no more, and the rest of our lives we are involved in devotional service, there is happiness that comes. It's not from sense gratification. The happiness is from the heart. The soul begins to be happy. We are feeding the soul when we're doing devotional service. That's exactly what the soul is supposed to be about. So when we do this, even with the material senses that we have here, then we become happy. And as we were talking earlier, Srila Prabhupada quoted, Mam chayoga vichari na bhakti yoge na sevate sagunai samati tetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So one who involves himself in devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances. Unfailing in all circumstances. Serving in bhakti yoga, they come to the Brahma Bhuyaya, the perfection platform. So we should never have any excuse when we have our service. First of all, we should feel fortunate that we have service. Billions of people in this earth don't have the service. They don't have a chance to go back to Godhead. But we got it. So we are among the minority of the minority. Very small percentage of devotees, of people in this world are devotees doing devotional service. So it's like you have to hang on tight to your service. That's why when difficulties come, you don't give up. You just say, find a way around it. Like that. So a little bit about Sankhya philosophy. This is about Lord Kapila and his instructions to Devahūti Mataji, his mother. Now, Prabhupada has already said, by hearing, Devahūti became fully realized and went back home, back to Godhead. Now, it's long, obviously, chapters 25 to 32, you're not going to be able to do all of it. Even the text alone, much less the purport from Srila Prabhupada also. But a few important points here. It's about material life, that means conditional life, and then Bhakti Yoga, which actually gives us the spiritual life. So in text 15 of chapter 25, it starts from chapter 25 in Canto 3. Text 15 says that the stage in which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature, that's defined as conditional life. When someone is attracted to goodness, material goodness, passion, and ignorance, they're living a conditional life. But when that same consciousness is transferred and get attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then, well, Kapila says, the person's consciousness is liberated. So it starts first from what a conditioned soul is. He's attached to the three modes of material nature and ruled by it. The whole activities is all based on either goodness, passion, or ignorance. Material goodness is contaminated with wanting adoration and wanting distinction. That they even think goodness, the word itself is obviously a good thing. If the person is doing a good thing. But they want, they're proud and they want some sort of acknowledgement. I did this, I did that, I did that. My name should go in the history books that I did this thing and this thing. I should be remembered. I put my name on this particular building because I paid for it, and therefore I will be remembered like that. So that's material goodness. The activity was good, but underneath they want distinction and adoration. All distinction and adoration belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's who should have it. So if we take that position, then we are competing with the Lord's position. And that's contamination. So a person that's attached to goodness, passion, and ignorance, they're living a conditioned life. But the same mind, the consciousness attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the person is actually liberated from material life, even while they're here. And then Lord Kapila continues that when one is completely cleansed of these impurities of lust and greed, from identifying the body as the self, lust and greed are connected with the physical body and the subtle body, also the mind. So, and then the bodily possessions, whatever we have is mine. Even our hands are not yours. God says, we don't own that. And he proved it. It's as if you think you own your hand, and every time you want to do anything, your hand just simply goes and does it. Just moves to that thing and does it. So one day you try to move and the hand doesn't go there. Even though your mind wants to, but your hand can't pick it up anymore. It's paralyzed. Then what? Did you own it in the first place? No. So whatever we do, it's the Lord that permits us. That's the super soul. Sitting in the heart of every living entity. The super soul supervises what we do and also permits. So it's still, even though we have this machine that we call the body, with all the parts there, they will not be able to work. None of the body, any parts of the body can work unless the super soul allows it to happen. That's the function, one of the functions of the super soul. And if it's not going to happen, there's nothing you can do about it, even though it's a part of so-called your body. But actually, the body is owned by the Lord. So that's the consciousness we should have. So when we are purified from thinking that everything material belongs to us, then in that pure state, we transcend the so-called material happiness and distress. So that's what Lord Kapila explains. And then when we get to this position, this is called self-realization, knowing what it is, what is. Then this practice of knowledge and getting detached, which is called renunciation, then everything is seen by the person in its right perspective. I don't own anything material. Therefore, then they become indifferent to material existence. Okay, so this is happening, as Swami said, you open the newspaper or you read whatever they're talking about. It said, I can summarize it all. Who fought who insulted who died, who got born, when they died, when they got born. But it's all like that. It's based on time. And time is material. It's just different permutations and combinations of the same thing. You have a different person doing it, but the activity is still the same. Some people who don't get it, and they think that life means I have to control, when in fact life means I have to serve all other living entities. And their minds are stuck there. And if they have control in a country, then they just start wars. Same thing over and over and over again. There was this war, and that war was over. And then this other war started, and then it was over. And then another war started. So the war after war after war around the planet. So take it for what it is, become indifferent to it, and spend time and energy in devotional service. And the Lord will protect us and take us back, just like Devahūti went back to the planet of his son, Lord Kapila. We have an opportunity to go to Krishna Loka, chanting the holy name of the Lord, to go to Golok Vrindavan. So Lord Kapila stresses the point that perfection in self-realization cannot be attained by any kind of yogi unless that person involves himself in devotional service. It is the only auspicious path. And everybody who understands this learned person knows very well that attachment for material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. We are here as souls, but when we get too attached to the material energy, then we get entangled. And that same attachment, the same energy, when applied to the self-realized devotees to serve them, then the door is open for liberation. Lord Kapila talks a little bit more about the nature of a devotee. What should they be like? Symptoms of a sadhu or a saint is that he's tolerant, he's merciful, and he's friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, and he's peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. So this is a very, very condensed way of Lord Kapila describing who a devotee should be. You should be tolerant because all kinds of things happen in the material energy. You should be merciful. That speaks for itself. And friendly to all living entities. Why? Because every living entity is the soul with the same quality as the soul inside of our bodies. Therefore, we shouldn't put other living entities down. We have to be, at the very least, friendly to them. A sadhu has no enemies. He's peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, the instructions on how to live life. And that particular person engages with all his energy in devotional service of the Lord without deviation. No abhicharina. Mam chayo abhicharina. Bhakti yoga sevati. That person is also engaged. Lord Kapila is saying he chants and hears about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they don't suffer from material energies because they are disengaged mentally from material miseries. And what is replacing that? The mind is filled with thoughts of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what we should be about. And this is only part of one chapter of 8 chapters about the Lord Kapila talking Sankhya philosophy. So this is chapter 25. A little bit about chapter 27. Then because it's almost time. Chapter 27 is about understanding material nature. As we said earlier, Sankhya philosophy, the Lord talked about material nature, and then he talked about the spiritual nature in such a way that one would see the spiritual as more important and the material is one to just tolerate and go on with. So chapter 27 is entitled Understanding Material Nature. When a living entity is not affected by the modes of material energy, because his mind is set on devotional service, and he doesn't claim proprietorship of anything here, then he remains apart, he remains separate from the reactions of the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. In other words, he doesn't even deal with karma. Activities are in the modes of goodness, passion, or ignorance. Material goodness, material passion, and ignorance. But he remains himself mentally separate from those. Therefore, the reactions don't affect him. And he gave an analogy. Just like the sun remains aloof from its reflection on water. You can see a bucket of water and they put it out, you can see the sun in it. Difficult to look directly at the sun, but you can look at the reflection of the sun. And it says the sun is aloof from that. So, again, he goes back and forth with material and spiritual. So in this part, in text 2, he's talking about the soul being under the spell of material nature and the false ego. Then the person identifies the body with the self and becomes absorbed in material activities. Then, under the influence of this false ego, false identity, he thinks that he is proprietor of everything. It's called lording it over material nature. And what happens? This particular condition soul then transmigrates from different species of life, higher and lower, more intelligent, less intelligent type, all kinds of demigod bodies, and now sometimes the body of an ant, the same soul, because they are associated with the modes of material nature. So unless that person is relieved of material activities and not material thinking, then he has to accept this position of one body after another because of his faulty thinking and faulty work. So Lord Kapila really breaks it down, material existence. A living entity is actually by nature transcendental to material existence. But because they want to lord it over material nature, control material nature, then his material existential condition does not cease. It keeps going from one body to another, one body to another, just like in a dream. And he's affected by all sorts of disadvantages. So what should we do? In executing devotional service, one has to see every living entity equally. There shouldn't be any enmity towards anyone. We have to observe celibacy. This is another way of pulling away from material energy. We have to be grave and execute eternal activities. Bhakti Yoga, offer everything we do, the results, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's Karma Yoga. So a devotee should be satisfied with what he earns without difficulty. We're not trying to be the greatest in the material energy because all that's going to give us is another body, another situation. And some people think that they are wealthy now, therefore automatically in the next life they're going to be wealthy. Have I got news for you? It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Usually people who abuse money, they become as poor as a church mouse the next life. That's exactly what happens. I'm sorry to be that blunt, but that's exactly what happens. Some people who are homeless now, they were rich in the previous life. Some people that were that are in animal bodies now, they were controllers of the material energy in the previous life. So that's why you just take only what's necessary and put the mind in spiritual activities. That way, we're situated in a transcendental position. We're beyond the stages of material consciousness. We should be aloof from all other conceptions of life, basically taking only what's necessary in the material energy. That way, we free ourselves from false identity or false ego. So that's some of the things that Lord Kapila explained. And it's wonderful if you have time, take the trouble to go to third canto, start with chapter 25, ending in chapter 32, however long it takes you, read that. And Sankhya philosophy is a big eye-opener. Just like Bhagavad Gita, it's a big eye-opener. So that is the incarnation of the Lord as Lord Kapila. And he came to his mother Devahūti, and they had 9 daughters too. And just to put it in, because most of you are in the Harrisburg Temple, my own wife, Anusuya Devi Dasi, the name is the servant of Anusuya. Anusuya is one of the daughters of Kadama Muni and Devahūti. And she married Atri Muni. That's another story for another time. Okay, so anyway, Sankhya philosophy is wonderful. If you have time, please read it. And it tells you what the material energy is so that we don't get attached to the material energy, but we serve the Lord with all our hearts, just like Srila Prabhupada is directing us to do. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much for coming on this morning also to hear. We all benefit from it. It's time to unmute yourself and ask any questions or share realization, from this lecture. Hare Krishna. So any questions? We're on top of the hour, but we're taking the last questions or any comments that anyone wants to unmute and talk about. All right, so if I'm not hearing anything then we will end now. Again, I will urge that at some point, begin to read Sankhya philosophy in the third canto, chapter 25, after 32, where however long it takes you, you'll benefit tremendously from it. So Lord Kapila really breaks it down to very simple language of explaining what the material and the spiritual energy is, so we can choose the spiritual over the material. Hare Krishna. Have a nice, wonderful weekend. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripasunidhi patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.